On the day of our engagement, my fiancé stayed out all night taking his drunk ex-girlfriend back to her hotel. At 3 in the morning, he called, "Let's cancel the wedding. I still can't get over your sister." I replied, Perhaps my docile demeanor softened him with pity. "Don't harm yourself. You'll meet someone who truly loves you." I replied, okay. He finally detected the strangeness in my tone and snapped, "Where are you? What are you doing right now?" The hand that had been igniting flames across my body again and again took the phone. Richard's voice came through, husky and mischievous. "You're right. She'll meet someone who truly loves her." "It's late, big brother. Better not disturb us," he said, lowering his head to kiss my neck, his movements growing more daring. "After all, we're rather occupied." As night fell, the banquet hall's opulent lights shimmered brilliantly. Media figures and business elites had gathered to witness Hugh's and my engagement ceremony. Miriam made her graceful entrance in a white mermaid-style evening gown, as if she were the star of the evening. The media cameras shifted from Hugh and me to the popular actress. Miriam slowly approached us, her voice gentle and alluring. "Little sister, I'll entrust Hugh to you now. You must take good care of him from this day forward. She is my stepsister and Hugh's unforgettable first love." I responded with a dignified smile. My fiancé, however, stared at her transfixed, his gaze unwaveringly locked on her. The awkward scene was finally disrupted by the sudden appearance of a long-absent figure. Richard swaggered into the banquet hall under the watchful eyes of the crowd, his smile blending roguish charm with aristocratic poise. Looking back, the emotional entanglements among the four of us spanned from high school through college. It all ended with me breaking up with Richard and Miriam accompanying him to study abroad. After 6 years apart, reuniting felt like entering a human purgatory. Miriam, ever the professional, never missed an opportunity to make headlines. Her gaze instantly shifted from Hugh to Richard. She walked up and intimately took his arm, her tone coy and flirtatious. "You're wearing that tie? It matches my dress." They once again became the center of attention in the entire venue. Richard's tie was the same color as Miriam's evening gown. Everyone was once again treated to their display. At this moment, Hugh's attention had shifted to Richard. A few years ago, the he couple perished in a car crash, leaving their entire enterprise to their adopted son Hugh. Since the announcement of our engagement, the media had speculated that Richard's return to China wasn't about attending his brother's wedding, but rather about reclaiming the Wei family's enterprise. Hugh feigned affection, wrapping his arm around my waist with a triumphant smile. "Little brother, Sunny will be your sister-in-law now. I doubt any further introduction is necessary." Richard's gaze swept coldly over the engagement ring on my hand. With a wicked smirk, he scratched the bridge of his nose, that habitual gesture I knew so well. Compared to 6 years ago, though he had grown more mature and composed, an innate roguishness still simmered beneath his demeanor. Just an engagement. Even marriages can end in divorce. Why rush to claim ownership, big brother? After speaking, his gaze shifted to Miriam. Though smiling, his words delivered a stinging rebuke. "This tie was chosen by my assistant. You and I are just classmates." With that, he loosened his tie and casually tossed it away. That night's trending topics: #Miriam Richard couple style, #Richard clarifies romance rumors. At the engagement banquet, Miriam got completely wasted. After the event ended, Hugh said he would take Miriam to the hotel first to rest and told me to go home alone. Watching Miriam tightly clutching Hugh's lapel as he gently settled her into the car, I replied obediently, "Okay." As the car's taillights faded into the distance, I stood shivering in the biting wind for what felt like an eternity. Suddenly, a suit jacket was draped over my shoulders, and I lifted my gaze to meet Richard's. I seemed to see the boy I once knew. His parents had passed away in a car accident, and I had ended things with him. Under the plane tree on that snowy night, he gazed at me with the same burning intensity as now, like a wounded young wolf. "Sunny, don't leave me. Please." "Was it something I did? I'll fix it. Please don't leave me." Richard, stop clinging to me. I don't love you anymore. After delivering that harsh line, I resolutely walked away from him. From that day on, Richard vanished from my life. I heard that over the past few years abroad, he has built his own thriving enterprise. Now, even without the backing of the He family's prestige, his own capabilities are sufficient to rival Hugh. Unexpectedly, our reunion happened at the engagement banquet between me and his own brother. Ironically, he witnessed me being ruthlessly abandoned, just as I had once abandoned him. Sure enough, the boomerang of fate punishes every merciless soul. He must think I've gotten my comeuppance, and I'm braced for his scathing mockery. But he just yanked me into his car and pinned me against the seat. Richard held me by the waist with domineering force. Do you regret choosing him? I wanted to explain, but saw no point. If you're not here to watch me suffer, I replied coldly, then take me home. The car started and sped into the night. The Bluetooth speakers automatically played that familiar song, summer versus spring, autumn versus winter, dusk drums to dawn bells, shadow against light, subtle against intense, wisdom's height to golden mean, clouds answering rain, snow answering wind, twilight's glow against clear skies. In our freshman year, he used this song to confess his feelings to me. I'll never forget the boy in a white shirt, singing Ballad of Clear Skies, with profound tenderness in his eyes, approaching me step by step. A ringing phone pulled me out of my memories. My mother was shouting on the other end, "Sonny, didn't I tell you not to provoke Miriam?" She called me sobbing, saying you stole her boyfriend. You're already engaged. What's wrong with you? Have you no shame? Old cheese giving me the cold shoulder because of this. From now on. Before my mother could finish, I hung up. Gazing out the window, the familiar sting returned to my eyes, veiling the world in a misty haze. After my father passed away, I ached for my mother raising me on her own. Later, when she married Miriam's father, I wanted to make her life happier. So I tried to be an obedient child, didn't dare to defy her, and worked hard to please my stepfather. But somewhere along the way, that maternal love had warped, morphing into a weapon she wielded to threaten and emotionally blackmail me. The car came to an abrupt halt. Just as I moved to exit, I realized this wasn't my residence. In the next moment, Richard abruptly yanked me into his embrace. I tumbled onto his lap as his signature sandalwood scent enveloped me. I froze momentarily and instinctively struggled, only to be pressed back into his embrace by his sturdy arms. Sorry, did I get you in trouble? His gravelly voice held a note of remorse, yet it only felt like mockery to me. I hadn't expected Richard to witness my wretched state twice in a single day. I bit my lower lip hard, trying to suppress the humiliation with pain, but tears welled up in my eyes. Richard's gaze darkened. He cupped the back of my head and kissed me. An unfamiliar yet familiar scent filled my senses. I froze, tears dropping one after another. 6 years ago, he acted exactly like this. Whenever tears threatened to spill, he would gather me in his arms, pressing me close while kissing me breathlessly until my sobs subsided. Only when I was out of breath and couldn't cry anymore would he let me go. The kiss 6 years later was fervent and brimming with possessiveness. I gasped in pain, and he reluctantly pulled away from my lips. What's the use of crying? If you feel wronged, you should give them a taste of their own medicine. His voice brushed against my ear, gravelly with awakened desire. Sonny, I don't mind being used by you. Richard took me back to his home. The moment we stepped inside, the familiar aroma of sandalwood enveloped us. I had once told him that I loved the scent on him the most, so much so that I had become dependent on it. Suddenly, I realized he had planned this all along. Just as I turned around, Richard pinned me against the wall. He curled his lips into a knowing smile. Thinking of escaping now? Too late. My fingernails dug into my palms as I looked up into his deep, penetrating eyes. You planned this deliberately. He leaned in close, his hot breath grazing my neck. So, what if I did? Miriam framed you, and my brother cheated on you during your engagement night. Don't you want to get back at them? He gave me no time to think, claiming my lips in a domineering kiss as he strode into his bedroom carrying me. As my evening gown slipped off, I discovered my engagement ring was missing. Just as I tried to get up to search for it, he pinned me beneath him. "Sonny, all these years, have you ever thought of me?" Before I could answer, Richard sealed my lips with a kiss. "But I've missed you so much." My heart twisted into a knot. "I've missed you too, Richard." Thinking about how I had no news of him all these years, my heart felt steeped in vinegar's bitterness, an unbearably sour ache. The man before me was no longer that earnest, impetuous youth from years past. Compared to 6 years ago, Richard's movements were now so practiced they unnerved me. Sensing my emotions, Richard restrained his ragged breathing and slowed his movements. "If you don't want this, you can still leave now." He stopped and began to pull away. The instant he started to rise, I reached up and wrapped my arms around his waist. "Sonny." His raspy voice was swallowed by my kiss. In Richard's astonished gaze burned the fervent hunger of my reckless surrender. In the long hours that followed, we both seemed utterly immersed in the tender warmth of reunion, showing no signs of weariness. As dawn broke, I drowsily turned over. A dull ache throbbed in my lower back. Suddenly remembering last night's madness, I turned to gaze at the man sleeping deeply beside me. Planning to sneak away, I felt Richard suddenly press closer, his warm hand settling on my waist with a subconscious, kneading motion. I had to admit, I was craving his embrace at this moment. Watching him sleep, my fingers lightly traced the bridge of his nose as a warm current surged uncontrollably through my chest. But reason warned me not to linger in this indulgence. Greater matters demanded my attention. After returning home, I called Hugh. When he answered, he deliberately lowered his voice. "Sonny, I've been preparing for the engagement all day yesterday. Can't you see I'm exhausted? What's with this go-doffel early call?" Then, a soft, cooing voice drifted from the other end. "Brother Hugh, hold me." I let out a cold laugh and said coolly, "If you don't want your scandal with Miriam exposed to the world, get back here right now." After that, I hung up and sent him a photo. The photo captured Hugh and Miriam, disheveled and passionately kissing in the car last night. I had anticipated that this day would come when Miriam returned. So, I installed a Bluetooth-connected hidden camera in Hugh's car. When Hugh rushed back, I was having a leisurely breakfast. He angrily swept all the dishes onto the floor and stepped forward to grab me by the neck. "Sonny, I really underestimated you. How dare you scheme against me?" I laughed coldly. "A scheme? Hugh, did I force your head to kiss Miriam? Or did I undo your belt and deliver you to her bed?" Hugh's eyebrows shot up, and he abruptly released his grip. "You're upset just because I slept with her? Sonny, I do care about you deep down." As he leaned in closer, the scent of Miriam's perfume wafted toward me. A surge of nausea hit me, and I abruptly jerked my knee up into his lower abdomen. Hugh groaned, clutching his lower abdomen as he staggered back a few steps, his face turning ashen. Looking down at him, I said, "If you don't want your scandal to hit the front page and cause Bai Group's stock price to plummet, give me that 500 million yuan contract for Minghu District before I arrive at the company." Hugh's face darkened as he glared at me through gritted teeth. "Sonny, well played. If it weren't for me back then, do you think your stepfather would have agreed to let you into Yi Enterprises? And now you dare to threaten me. Do you think just because Richard has come back successful, he can protect you?" I ignored him, threw the Minghu District contract in his face, and turned to leave for work. My phone chimed with a few notifications. I opened them to check. My mother had sent me several photos of herself posed and ready to slit her wrists, threatening to force me into issuing a public apology to Miriam. Scrolling up, I saw messages from Richard. "You heartless little thing, running off right after sleeping with me." He sent me a tearful, crying emoji. "Why aren't you replying to my messages? Was last night not to your satisfaction?" I didn't reply. Then I sent the compromising photos of Miriam and Hugh to my mother. After that, I blocked her contact information. When I arrived at the company, my stepfather slapped me hard the moment he saw me. Fortunately, with quick reflexes, I yanked Miriam, who stood nearby smugly watching with arms crossed, in front of me as a human shield. Miriam was stunned by the sudden slap. My stepfather was comforting her while pointing at me and cursing, "You ungrateful wretch. I paid for your education, you lived off me, and now you dare steal my daughter's boyfriend. Get out. You're no longer part of Ye Enterprises." I chuckled. Boyfriend? That's just Miriam's delusion. Before his next slap could land, his secretary rushed to his side and whispered urgently, "Mr. Chi, the Minghu district contract has been secured, but the liaison officer is Mr. Liu." My stepfather and Miriam stared at me in astonishment, their haughty air abruptly subdued. I tidied my disheveled hair and approached my stepfather. "If you want to preserve what's left of your dignity, retire from the company now. That way, when I eventually oust you, you won't be reduced to a rabid dog yapping at my feet." After saying that, I left the father and daughter standing there seething with rage. I went to the restroom to touch up my makeup before leaving the company to meet with the project liaison. My assistant led me to the counterpart's office. Richard was sitting in his chair, fingers interlaced beneath his chin, steadily meeting my gaze. "Aren't you the least bit surprised, Sonny?" I gave a faint smile, resting my hand on his desk and leaning forward. Given what I know about Hugh, he would assign me the Minghu district project, but not this easily. "Richard, thank you. You've been an enormous help." Richard curled his lips in satisfaction, scratched his nose, a habitual gesture, and stood up from his chair. He walked behind me, placed his large hand over mine on the desk, his chest pressed flush against my back. "Is that all I get? A verbal thank you?" Afraid he'd get carried away, I hurriedly reminded him, "This is the office." He playfully bit my ear in retaliation. "Don't you dare ignore my messages again." The meeting lasted the entire day. After dinner, Richard said he wanted to take me somewhere. Sitting in his car, I unintentionally drifted off to sleep from exhaustion. When I woke, I discovered he'd parked outside our university. We strolled along the sycamore-shaded avenue. We both stopped under a street lamp, the very spot where I'd broken up with him years before. Richard finally asked the question that had been weighing on his mind. "Sonny, why? You said you didn't love me when you broke up with me. It was all a lie, wasn't it?" My thoughts suddenly snapped back to our high school days. Back then, Richard was the school bully who lived for fights, while Hugh stood as the exemplary student, outstanding in both character and academics. As the adopted son of the Wei family, Hugh had grown up insecure, driven by fears of being outshone by Richard and abandoned, which fueled his relentless pursuit of excellence. Back then, I had a crush on Hugh, that model student type. But whenever Miriam mocked me for freeloading at her house and called my mother a shameless woman who threw herself at men, he would just tell me to bear with it, then take Miriam out for fried chicken while asking her to stop picking on me. When Richard found out about this, he and several male classmates cornered Miriam on her way home from school. He declared he was serving justice, but held to his principles, no hitting girls. Then he drew me to his side and let me unleash my anger on Miriam however I wanted. Because of Richard, I experienced for the first time the exhilarating thrill of standing up and fighting back. All my life, my mother told me to endure, Hugh told me to endure, but no one ever cared about my feelings. Only that boy shielded me with unwavering devotion, stubbornly insisting on attending the same university as me. I was utterly captivated by the line he sang, "Sunset hues against azure skies," and surrendered myself to him completely. In my junior year of college, my dearest grandmother was diagnosed with cancer and my mother couldn't afford her treatment. Meanwhile, Richard's parents died in a car accident. Everything from the Wei family was seized by Hugh, and Miriam approached me. She said Richard had given up his chance to study abroad because of me. If I agreed to break up with him, she would cover all medical expenses and secure the most renowned specialists for my grandmother's treatment. I agreed, but 6 months after the surgery, my grandmother still passed away. Miriam also had her stepfather send her abroad for studies, and I lost contact with them from then on. Hugh resented Miriam for choosing Richard and hated his parents for favoring him. He could only take revenge on me. Knowing my family situation, he resorted to all means to sabotage my stepfather's company. As a result, my mother knelt before me, threatening to slit her wrists to force me into an engagement with Hugh. After explaining everything, Richard held me tightly in his arms, his voice trembling slightly. "Sonny, I'm sorry. It's all my fault for coming back so late." At this moment, tears that had been pent up for years gathered in my eyes, quietly dampening the man's shirt. Returning to the sandalwood-perfumed room, Richard approached me, gazing into my eyes from an intimate distance. Involuntarily, I lifted my gaze. Our eyes met, and the entire world seemed to freeze in that moment. "Sonny, break off the engagement with him and come back to me, will you?" I swallowed and whispered. "Back then, when you went abroad with Miriam, did you too? We were never together. You've been the only woman in my life," he said with deliberate emphasis. "Sonny, you need to make up for these 6 empty years of my life." Just that one sentence sent a flush spreading from my face down to my neck as the last thread of rationality in my mind snapped. All the grievances and longing from those 6 years finally dissolved into our desperate, clinging intimacy. He gripped my waist tightly, his deep voice now thick with desire. "Sonny, I miss you so much. I'm going crazy." At 3 in the morning, Hugh called, his voice icy. "Sonny, let's postpone our wedding by a few days." I murmured, Perhaps I seemed too docile, so he softened with a hint of pity. "Don't consider harming yourself. I'm just not ready to move on from your sister yet," I replied. Okay. He finally sensed something was off and demanded irritably, "Where are you? What are you doing?" The hand that had been stoking flames across my body took the phone. Richard's voice flowed, husky with mischief. "She's feeling fragile. My turn to comfort her now." "It's so late, big brother. You really shouldn't be disturbing us," he murmured against my neck, his roaming hands growing bolder with each moment. "After all, we're rather occupied at the moment." With that, he hung up. The man leaned close to my ear, his scorching breath fanning across my neck. "Call me husband. Let me hear you say it." I let him coax and tease me, still keeping my eyes tightly shut with teeth gritted in stubborn resistance. In name, I'm still Hugh's fiancé and can't make verbal promises to him. I can't let the pain I inflicted on him 6 years ago happen again. The project in the Minghu district has been progressing smoothly, and now multiple companies are seeking to collaborate with Yi Enterprises. Through various successful projects, I achieved significant results while fostering an atmosphere of reform as imperative within the company. By comparison, my stepfather, the highest-ranking executive, appeared increasingly out of touch due to his conservatism and inaction. He was inherently incompetent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have needed Hugh to save the company back then. Now, step by step, I have convinced everyone through my own capabilities without relying on anyone. I gradually replaced the company's core members at every level with my own people, completely stripping my stepfather of his authority. At the board meeting, he was officially ousted from his position through a vote. Yi Enterprises is now under my management and has been officially renamed as He Enterprises. When Hugh came to my office, his face was dark with barely contained anger. "Sonny, you've grown bold. Do you think this is enough to break free from my control?" I calmly told him, "You are the one who forced this engagement. I merely rode the wave you created." He stepped forward, gripping my shoulders as his composure shattered. "You agreed to marry me while feigning affection, just to seize complete control of Yi Enterprises? You've been orchestrating this takeover from the very beginning, haven't you? Richard was the one who abandoned you back then. I've stayed by your side all this time. Weren't you the one who liked me since high school? But now I can't feel an ounce of genuine feeling from you." Looking at his agitated state, I just felt like laughing. "Hugh, from the very beginning, you used me as a tool to retaliate against Richard. I was coerced by you into leveraging your influence to establish myself within Yi Enterprises. You knew exactly how Miriam treated me all these years, yet you hooked up with her on our engagement night. A piece of trash like you has no right to lecture me about sincerity." I pushed Hugh away, irritably sank back into my chair, and struggled to steady my breathing. For the upcoming collaboration projects, we'll play the engaged couple a few more days. When this concludes, We go separate ways. You can scramble off to your precious, white moonlight. Hugh stood frozen, a bitter laugh escaping him. You were with Richard last night, weren't you?
Yes.
You can chase your white moonlight. Can I seek my crimson stain? The sincerity you crave, I entrusted it to him ages ago. Thinking of Richard, a surge of inexplicable unease churned within me. I didn't want to look at Hugh for another second. On the day my stepfather left the company, Miriam called me. She said my mother was having heart palpitations and asked me to return to the Chi residence immediately. As soon as my mother saw me, she sat on the floor clutching my legs, wailing, "You ungrateful child. If I hadn't made Miriam contact you, I wouldn't even get to see you." I was no stranger to her tactics, so I cut straight to the point. "Mom, what exactly do you want from me? Just tell me." She wiped her tears and glanced at my stepfather smoking a cigar on the sofa. "Sonny, return the company to the Yi family. Otherwise, give Miriam 50% of the shares." I glanced at Miriam, who sat there completely unperturbed, and scoffed. "What gives you the right?" When Yi Enterprises faced a crisis, I was the one who steered it through. Why should they, the father and daughter, now reap the benefits of my efforts? When Miriam bullied me as a child and seduced my fiancé on our engagement night, why didn't you stand up for me? If you enjoy playing the savior so much, why not save your own daughter? As the words left my mouth, my mother's full force slap struck my face, whipping my head sideways. My ears buzzed with tinnitus, while the coppery taste of blood seeped across my tongue. She pointed her finger at my face, screaming hoarsely, "I brought you into this world and raised you, not for you to turn against me." I took a deep breath, trying to ease the stinging on my face. "Yes, you gave me life and raised me. This blood bond can't be severed. So, I'm giving you two choices. Either leave with me now and I'll ensure you enjoy your old age in peace, or when the father and daughter kick you out, you can come to me. I'll take you in then. Other than that, don't contact me again." After saying this, I resolutely walked out. Behind me, my mother began slapping her own face incessantly. I told myself not to soften. Repeated compromises would only fuel escalating greed. All my efforts were to break free from the Chi family. My mother is someone willingly mired in the swamp. Perhaps being trapped by the Chi family for life is her destined fate. I quickened my pace and ran out of the Yi residence. Colliding into someone's arms, I looked up to find Richard. His gaze fell on my swollen, tear-streaked face. Frowning, he was about to charge through the Chi family's main gate. I wrapped my arms around his waist and buried my face against his warm chest. "Richard, get me out of here. I need to go." The man stroked my head, barely containing his fury. "All right, I'm getting you out of here." Sitting in the car, I cried myself to sleep. I didn't know how long I'd been out. When I opened my eyes, Richard was gripping the steering wheel, his gaze fixed on me. He leaned over. "You looked so tired that I didn't have the heart to wake you." A warm palm cupped my cheek as he gently rubbed it with his thumb. "Still hurts." Recalling what had happened at the Yi family earlier, a wave of irritation surged through me. I wrapped my arms around Richard's neck, closing my eyes as I greedily breathed in his sandalwood scent. "Just kiss me, and the pain will go away." The man smiled and casually pulled down the sun visor. He kissed me from my cheek to the corner of my lips, then gradually trailed downward along my neck. The passenger seat reclined under his touch, leaving the quiet car filled with nothing but our ragged, synchronized breathing. "Sonny, if I hadn't come back, would you really have married my brother?" Richard's scorching palm grazed my waist with deliberate strokes, as if my affirmation would drive him to snap me in two without mercy. I pressed my hands against his chest, gazing at him with anxious, yet resolute intensity. Never. Everything was under my control. I knew you would come back. But I never imagined it would be this bone-devouring catharsis of longing rather than retaliation. "Richard, that night, it wasn't you who seduced me. I was the one who planned it all. All these years, I've missed you." In the darkness, all those restless emotions transformed into an endless mountain spring, coursing through the night as they flowed and released. When I woke up early the next morning, Richard had already left. Breakfast sat on the dining table where he'd prepared it, and I ate while habitually scrolling through my phone. Among the trending topics was a post marked with a red burst tag, #popular actress Miriam pregnant. Before I could click on it, Hugh called. "Sonny, do you have to go this far? What good does destroying Miriam do for you?" My breakfast suddenly lost its appeal. At that moment, I could have stabbed the phone screen with my fork. "Hugh, you knocked someone up. Why are you raging at me? Got lead in your skull, or what?" I hung up the phone and thumped my head. When I think back to my high school crush on Hugh, I wish I could have plucked my own eyes out. All day, the trending topics were flooded with photos of Miriam visiting a private hospital for prenatal checkups. Though the man accompanying her wore a baseball cap and mask, media outlets still successfully exposed his identity. By evening, new hashtags exploded online. #Richard the Cheater, #Miriam. Yes, we have a child. In the comment section, all were sympathizing with Miriam and cursing Richard. That dog of a man slept with our baby girl and won't take responsibility. Waymut dare deny his relationship with Yaya Realty. Hammer him dead. Yaya can shine alone. No need for that way scum. Woo-woo. My poor Yaya. My heart aches for my darling. I left a comment under the trending topic. Don't make judgments without knowing the full picture. With just that one sentence, my private messages were instantly flooded by Miriam's brainless fans. Looking at the endless stream of abusive messages flooding my phone, I truly understood cyber violence for the first time. Richard sent me a message. "Sonny, put away your phone. Don't look. I'll take care of it." Suddenly, I remembered that in high school, Hugh had intentionally sliced through Richard's basketball jersey with a pocket knife. Richard covered my eyes, turned me around, and uttered a line that felt all too familiar. "Sonny, boys fighting. Don't look. I'll handle this." Richard is still the same person who silently takes everything upon himself, no matter what happens. And Hugh, true to form, hasn't changed. He asked to meet me at a cafe. There was no trace of his morning irritability in his expression now. If anything, he looked faintly pleased with himself. "Sonny, now that Richard's reputation is ruined, you have no choice but to marry me." I replied, "It seems the trending topics smearing Richard we're doing. What about Miriam?" Hugh said, "How can the wife of By Group's CEO be some unknown starlet? She was only ever fit for a fling. The position of chairman's wife belongs to you. I'll give you the most respectable life. You just need to be sensible. Don't interfere with my affairs. Fulfill your duties, and every project you desire will be yours." I couldn't bear it any longer. I picked up the coffee and splashed it fiercely onto his face. His expensive suit was splattered with coffee. Hugh cursed viciously at my retreating figure. "Sonny, you ungrateful bitch. Don't come crawling back to me when you regret this." Richard publicly revealed his social media account, Evening Glows to Clear Skies. Even I had never seen this account, which had been quietly documenting moments since high school. With just over 100 posts published, many of which are photos of us, the account is packed with information. Big Brother and I are family. Why does he always have to bully me? Need to protect silly Sonny. She gets bullied by her sister just like me. Miriam seems deranged. I already told her I have a girlfriend. Why is she still harassing me? Sonny's mad. She's ignoring me. Can't even focus on basketball anymore. Damn it. I'll sing Ballad of Clear Skies to coax her. I really love kissing you. The pinned post was a vlog by Richard, posted on the day he went abroad to study. That girl might stay mad for a long time this round. I'll go abroad to cool off first. A man should focus on his career, but Richard, will always be Sonny's. No one can snatch me away from her. In Richard's voice was an unmistakable choke, his eyes rimmed red as he spoke in the most carefree tone of the things hardest to let go. Onlookers were utterly bewildered. Miriam's fans were speechless. Many began ridiculing her clout-chasing attempt that backfired. Richard's Weibo followers skyrocketed, and someone even created a Clear Skies couple super topic for us. My account was exposed, and some of Miriam's fans even jumped ship to follow me. The entire online community exploded. I admit I was biased against Richard before. Now I'm begging you, clear skies couple, make up this instant. Richard is so pathetic. Why does he have to mess with him? Richard is utterly devoted. His singing of evening glows to clear skies is absolutely breathtaking. Miriam shamelessly pursued a taken man to trap my Kong. Whose love child is this anyway? Ugh, Miriam is such a habitual clout chaser, even bullying her own sister.
What kind of person does that?
By the way, the clear skies couple is so shippable. Sunny looks absolutely stunning and Richard is drop-dead gorgeous. They're literally a match made in heaven. You bastard who knocked up Miriam. Show your true self. Om Mani Padme Hum. This incident brewed online for quite some time. Richard's public image took a turn, yet his career remained completely unaffected. In fact, his company's stock price surged dramatically. Miriam began to fade from the public eye. People speculated that she was either recovering from an abortion or had gone abroad to give birth. Meanwhile, Hugh remained hidden in the shadows, pestering me daily to marry him. After the successful completion of the joint project between He Group and By Group, I officially announced the dissolution of my engagement with Hugh that same day. I also posted online the photo of Hugh and Miriam kissing, along with an audio recording. You orchestrated all those defamatory trending posts about Richard. What about Miriam? How could By Group's first lady be some obscure starlet? She's only worthy of being my casual fling. Hugh was publicly shamed as netizens launched into a frenzy of vicious cursing and relentless attacks against him. By Group stock price plummeted, with reporters and Miriam's diehard fans crowding the company entrance daily. I heard that one day, the moment he reached the company entrance, someone hurled rotten eggs at him and drenched him in mop water. He never dared show his face there again after that. I seized the opportunity to intercept several major projects that were originally intended for By Group. Richard called me, his voice trembling like a pitiful puppy. Sunny, could you come pick me up? I want to see you, need to see you right now. All right, where are you? I casually took a photo and posted it to the campus forum. Since the death of the He couple, Richard had been investigating the circumstances surrounding his parents' fatal car accident. He had secretly kept the damaged car and uncovered surveillance footage of Hugh cutting the brake lines. Richard took the evidence to the police station and reported the crime. Hugh was arrested and is under investigation. By Group declared bankruptcy and underwent liquidation. Hugh is destined to spend the rest of his days behind bars. After leaving the police station, I hugged Richard. You've had this evidence all along. Why wait until now to bring Hugh to justice? Was it all because of me? I could feel Richard's long-suppressed emotions suddenly released. He stroked my head, his voice hoarse. Sunny, I don't want you to suffer any harm. I know you need time to establish yourself firmly at Chi Enterprises to legitimately break off the engagement with Hugh. I can't let you bear the stigma of having a fiancé who's a murderer. Only when you have no ties with him, and this matter cannot implicate you, can I move against you. An indescribable emotion surged through me. I could only hold him tight and whisper, I'm sorry. In return for his apology, Richard received the ring slipped onto my finger. True to his word, he bought a pricier ring with a larger stone, as expected. I felt it was too extravagant and inconvenient to wear. He said he deliberately chose the heaviest one so I'd wear it with perpetual guilt, forever bound to him. Later, Miriam came to the company looking for me. She had an abortion and appeared to have fully recovered. In front of the company employees, she berated me for being ungrateful, accused me of stealing her family's business, and claimed I was too timing. Until she saw the sparkling ring on my hand, she broke down sobbing. Sunny, why? I'm clearly superior to you in every way. Why wouldn't Richard choose me? Even Hugh deceived me. I'm carrying his child, yet the one he wants to marry is still you. Looking at Miriam's face contorted with jealous frenzy, I lost all remaining patience. Seizing her collar, I struck her twice across the face. Miriam, you walked yourself into this dead end. You've got no one to blame but yourself. You shouldn't have been delusional enough to follow Richard abroad from the start. Trash like Hugh is your perfect match. Who would even want him? Miriam stared at me with wide eyes, her face a canvas of disbelief. Just then, the police arrived. She grabbed the officer's arm like a clutching at straws, covered her face and cried, "This woman hit me. Arrest her now. I want to sue her." A pair of handcuffs clamped around Miriam's wrists as she was arrested on charges of tax evasion and fraud amounting to 100 million yuan. Richard said that my stepfather had sold all his valuable possessions to cover Miriam's back taxes. On the day I was trying on my wedding dress, my mother called me in tears, pleading with me to help Miriam. Otherwise, my stepfather would divorce her. I told my mother that worked out perfectly after the divorce. She could come live with me. My mother called me an ungrateful wretch and angrily hung up. I turned to Richard and shrugged. See, I still can't save a love-struck fool. I can never wake someone pretending to be asleep. Richard fixed his unblinking gaze on me in the wedding dress, stepped closer, and wrapped his arms around my waist. I'm a love-struck fool too, but only when it comes to you. I couldn't help but smile and kissed his lips. How about a reward for this love-struck fool? Richard asked. What is the reward? Rising on tiptoe, I whispered in his ear. Husband. Sonny, you're done for. How dare you try to seduce me? Richard said. Come home with me now. I need to deal with you properly. The project in Minghu district is progressing smoothly, with many companies now eager to collaborate with Yi Enterprises. Through multiple successful projects, I achieved significant results while fostering a company-wide atmosphere that reform was imperative. In contrast to me, my stepfather, the highest-ranking official, seemed increasingly out of touch as his conservatism and inaction became more pronounced. He was utterly incompetent. Otherwise, he would never have had to rely on Hugh to save the company from collapse. Now, step by step, I've earned everyone's trust through my own capabilities without depending on anyone. I gradually replaced key positions throughout the company with my trusted individuals, completely stripping my stepfather of his power. At the board meeting, he was formally ousted from his position through a vote. Yi Enterprises will now be under my management and has been officially renamed He Enterprises. When Hugh came to see me in the office, he looked terrible. Sonny, you've grown bold. Do you really think you can slip from my grasp this easily? I calmly told him, you are the one who forced this engagement on me. I merely went with the flow. He stepped forward and gripped my shoulders, demanding hysterically, you agreed to marry me and feigned affection just to monopolize Yi Enterprises? You've been scheming this all along, haven't you? Richard left you, and I've been here for you all along. Didn't you have feelings for me back in high school? But now I can't sense any genuine warmth from you. Seeing how agitated he was, I couldn't help but want to laugh. Hugh, from the very beginning you used me as a tool to retaliate against Richard. Compelled by your coercion, I leveraged your influence to entrench myself within Yi Enterprises. You've known how Miriam has treated me since we were kids, yet you slept with her on our engagement night. Trash like you, what gives you the right to talk to me about sincerity? I pushed Hugh away, sat back irritably in my chair, and tried to compose myself. For the upcoming collaboration project, we'll keep up this charade of being engaged for a few more days. When it's over, we part ways immediately. You can go crawling back to your precious, white moonlight. Hugh stood frozen in place, letting out a bitter chuckle. You were with Richard last night, weren't you?
Yes.
You can chase your pristine white moonlight. Why can't I claim my passionate crimson muse? That genuine heart you crave? I surrendered mine to him ages ago. Thinking of Richard, a wave of inexplicable unease surged through me. I couldn't be bothered to look at Hugh another moment. On the day my stepfather left the company, Miriam called me. She said my mother was having heart problems and urged me to return to the Yi family home immediately. As soon as my mother saw me, she collapsed onto the floor, clutching my legs, wailing, "You ungrateful girl. If I hadn't made Miriam reach out to you, I wouldn't even have gotten to see you." I was no stranger to her tactics and got straight to the point. "Mom, what exactly do you want me to do? Just tell me." She wiped her tears and glanced at my stepfather smoking a cigar on the sofa. "Sonny, return the company to the Yi family, or give Miriam half the shares." I glanced at Miriam's unconcerned face and snorted. "What gives you the right?" When Chi Enterprises faced crisis, I was the one who pulled them through. What right do you and your daughter have to reap the rewards now? When Miriam bullied me as a child and was seducing my fiancé the night of our engagement, where were you when I needed you to stand up for me? If you want to play the savior so badly, why not save your own daughter? The moment the words left my mouth, Mom's palm cracked across my face with all her might, snapping my head to the side. My ears roared with white noise as the metallic tang of blood bloomed in my mouth. She pointed her finger in my face, shouting at the top of her lungs, "I brought you into this world and raised you, not so you could defy me." I took a deep breath, trying to ease the pain in my face. Yes, you gave birth to me and raised me. That's an unbreakable family bond. So, I'm giving you two options. Either leave with me now and live out your days in peace, or wait until the Yi family throws you out, then come find me and I'll take you in. Other than that, there's no need to reach out to me again. After saying this, I resolutely walked out. Behind me, my mother began slapping herself nonstop. I told myself not to show weakness. Repeated compromises would only breed ever-increasing demands driven by greed. All my efforts were to break free from the Yi family. My mother is someone content to wallow in the swamp. Perhaps being forever trapped by the Yi family is her fate. I quickened my pace and ran out of the Yi residence. I collided with an embrace mid-stride. Looking up, I found myself face to face with Richard. His gaze fell on my swollen, tear-streaked face. With a furrowed brow, he charged toward the Chi family's gate. I hugged his waist and buried my face in his warm chest. "Richard, take me away. I need to get out of here." The man stroked my head, barely containing his simmering fury. "Fine," he growled through clenched teeth. "I'm getting you out of here."